For months, our TV screens have been blanketed with wall-to-wall coverage of Ukrainians fighting for their lives as they're displaced from their homes, having their houses bombed, and countless lives lost. But what if I told you that just over 100 years ago, the exact same thing happened to American citizens right here on American soil? Well, that's exactly what happened when an angry white mob armed by local officials descended on 35 blocks in the black area of Tulsa, looting, killing, and burning it to the ground.
I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire. I still see black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day.
She certainly deserves justice, as do all the survivors. And on Monday, an Oklahoma judge ruled that a lawsuit seeking reparations for the 1921 Tulsa race massacre can proceed, bringing hope for some measure of justice. Joining me to talk about this very important story is Demario Solomon Simmons. He's the attorney for the Tulsa survivors and descendants. Demario, my brother, I'm so happy to have you on the show this morning. Tell us what exactly this means for the case going forward. What are the next steps?
Absolutely, Tiffany, so good to see you, and thank you for your continued support. Listen, we made history on Monday with the opportunity for the first time in more than 100 years to have a case connected to the Tulsa Race Massacre to move forward in some fashion. That is the good news. Now, we don't know exactly how we're moving forward because we're waiting for the actual written order from our judge, but we are so ecstatic and elated that our survivors and our community has an opportunity to move this case forward. Tiffany, you've met all the survivors. You know them pretty well. They were all in the courtroom at the time. And of course, Mother Fletcher and Mother Randall both being 107. They don't hear as well if you're not talking directly to them. But Uncle Red, there in the middle, 101 years old, he hears everything perfectly. And when I looked around and saw that he was bawling like a baby because he finally knows that this is an opportunity to be able to move forward in this case, it was the best possible feeling I've ever had in a professional setting.
Well, I'm happy you brought up Uncle Red. I want to play some sound from him when he learned about this ruling. I believe you were seated next to him. He talked to one of our colleagues, Omar Jimenez at CNN. Take a listen.
You really feel it deep down to your core.
Yep.
It's been a long time coming.
Long time coming. It's gonna come. A change is coming.
After decades and decades of trying, this is just for a chance.
It's not, this thing never happened like this before. You go back 100 years.
And you won't stop till it's finished.
Won't stop till it's finished. We'll not stop. We can keep driving. I'm gonna be 130 years old. I'll be here a long time.
We love Uncle Red. We love Uncle Red. Listen, you know, I've been there with you, Brother Demario. You know, I've been to the Greenwood district of Tulsa. And it is, I mean, just enraging to see what the black folks there experienced. And I'm just curious because we've seen what happened there ripple through time and ripple through generations. Mother Fletcher's children and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren were impacted by the wealth that was taken and stolen. And these were people not bothering anybody. They were just living their lives that so outraged the angry people there. Approximately how much wealth do you think was lost when the destruction of Greenwood happened?
Well, listen, just talking about the property damage alone, just the property damage, not the lives, not the business opportunities. Property damage is, according to Harvard University, is over $200 million just in property damage alone. So when you start factoring in the hundreds of thousands, hundreds or what we believe to be thousands of lives that were lost, when you talk about the loss of wealth of generations, when you think about a person like J.B. Stratford, who owned the largest African-American owned hotel in the nation at the time, was a multimillionaire, had all his properties burnt to the ground, and then he was ran out of Tulsa as a refugee. He could not come back because they bogusly put indictments on him as saying he was the reason behind the massacre. So he lost everything. So just imagine, instead of, in addition to seeing Marriotts and Hyatts and Hiltons and those type of hotels, you would see Stratfords all over the nation. Or you take people like Dr. A.C. Jackson, who's considered the finest Negro, quote-unquote, Negro surgeon in the nation, or attorney A.J. Smitherman that owned the Tulsa Star, which was the largest the first African-American publication or newspaper to have a national circulation. Once again, everything burnt to the ground, and he was ran out of Tulsa, never to return because they put false indictments on him.
It's so
that is what we're
awful,
talking
Demario.
about in terms of wealth.
Well, I want to point out to the Chamber of Commerce attorney, John Tucker. He was asked about this, and essentially he said that the massacre was horrible, but the nuisance is not ongoing. And what happened in 1921 was a really bad deal, and those people did not get a fair shake. But that was 100 years ago. If I stole money from somebody 50 years ago, I still think a judge might say, hey, you need to run him back his coins because you stole something from him. Essentially, it sounds like he's saying, why are you bringing up old stuff? And how disrespectful to these three people who are over 100 years old who survived this level of white supremacy and terror. Just curious what you would respond to Mr. Tucker with.
What I'll respond is that what we've shown in court, that the president of the Tulsa Chamber of Commerce, Mike Neal, admitted in 2019 that the Chamber of Commerce activities during the massacre and since the massacre is a direct result of the economic disparities that are in Tulsa today, in the Greenwood district specifically. So he can say what he wants to say. The reality is that their leadership recognized, as you know, Tiffany, the mayor has said the same thing, that the racial and economic disparities that we see in Tulsa today is a direct result of the 1921 race massacre. Here's the deal. Oklahoma's nuisance law allows us to say if a nuisance was created and if that nuisance is ongoing until it's fixed or abated, then we have a valid claim. Think about it in this manner.
You do.
Oil spill.
Well, I want to let you make that point tomorrow, but we're out of time, so you'll have to come back. We're way over time. But thank you not only for being here this morning, but for the work that you do and your continued fight. You always say justice is your ministry, so keep fighting, good brother. We appreciate you.